Hello, this is Benjamin Reel from Herzing University for class BU 491 Capstone project. I will be discussing alternative energy solutions for businesses, what alternative energy systems are currently available, what are the advantages and disadvantages to each system, how location plays a part with each system, how LEEDs or other certifications affects tax breaks that are available from installing each system, and why you should consider each system. The first alternative energy solution that is available is wind power. There are currently two types of commercially available wind power units, being a vertical turbine and a horizontal turbine. Vertical turbine uses blades that are shaped like the sails of a boat and act in much the same manner to turn a shaft, which in turn drives the turbine. Horizontal wind turbines use propellers attached to a shaft that runs the turbine. Both produce electricity as the shaft rotates around the internal housing, which causes magnetic fields to be broken, which induces a current that is then either fed back to the utilities or to the facility to be used either initially, or you have the option of using batteries to store the power. While wind turbines are very efficient, being able to produce up to 90% of a business's electrical needs, they are not super reliable since you need to rely on the wind for their generation of power. They require at least an acre to be for each turbine, and they have the highest initial cost of operation of any of the other alternative energy solutions mentioned. Wind turbines cost roughly $3,000 to $8,000 per kilowatt, meaning that for your typical small business, the initial cost would be anywhere from $54,000 to $144,000 installed. For a medium business, between $108,000 or $288,000, and a large business about $216,000 to $576,000 installed without incentives. There is currently a 30% alternative energy tax break available to businesses through Focus on Energy that this will qualify for. Passive solar heating is the next alternative solution for businesses. You have south-facing building design, which relies on the building being built with the length of the building being east and west, with the narrow section of the building being north and south, and a lot of windows facing south with an overhang to block the sun during the summer. During the winter, the sun gets low enough that it goes through the windows and gets absorbed into the absorbent material that the building is built with on the inside, either consisting of concrete or some other heat absorbing material that absorb the heat from the sun during the day and gives off this heat back into the building during the night. While this form of passive solar heat is very effective and costs almost nothing to install if designed around the system, it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to move a building or add windows to make a building passive solar heating with the south-facing building design. Not to mention that there are no tax breaks currently available to the system, and you face issues if your manufacturing process of the business entails processes that could break the glass windows. Batch passive solar heating is another passive solar heating option that involves putting a solar collector up on the roof or outside the building that has a storage tank built into it that you run your cold water supply line into. It preheats the water, then sends it back into the solar storage slash backup water heater, where it is either then sent out to the building or heated up further and then sent out to the building, depending upon the temperature of the water. Thermosiphon passive solar heating is very much like batch passive solar heating, except that the solar collector and the storage tank are separate, allowing you to insulate the lines between all the components, making it a more efficient system than the batch one. Passive solar hot water heating systems average a cost of around $2,000, with thermosiphon passive solar hot water heating costing up to $1,000 more than batch systems. Both of the passive hot water heating systems are not eligible for any sort of tax credit currently, but could save the business an average of $500 to $600 per year in hot water savings. Active solar water heating is the next available option for alternative energy solutions. There are two types: direct circulation and indirect. Direct circulation basically runs water from the hot water storage tank to the solar collector and back into the tank. There is a pump in the circuit that recirculates, so you're constantly circulating water from the collector to the tank and back. This means that you don't need a separate collector on the roof or outside, and since the water is constantly moving, it allows the system to be more efficient. Indirect circulation solar water heaters, like passive water circulation water heaters, circulate liquid through the collector and back to the storage hot water tank, except that they use an antifreeze or other to circulate throughout the collector, and then a heat exchanger to transfer that heat to the water, thus making them the only viable option for cold weather locations. Both forms of active solar water heating are more efficient than their passive counterparts, but they are also more complex and more costly to maintain since there are more moving parts. Active solar water heating initial cost averages around $4,000, with indirect circulation solar hot water heaters going from $6,000 to $17,000 on initial cost. Active solar hot water heating can save from $600 to $700 a year from a business's cost, once again without tax incentives. The next alternative energy solution is active solar power. You basically end up using photovoltaic cells on the roof or outside of the building that catches the rays of the sun, which in turn causes electron movement within the panel that can then be routed into the business, to a battery bank, or back onto the utility grid. Active solar power should cost somewhere around $9,000 to $36,000 for a small business, $18,000 to $72,000 for a medium business, and $36,000 to $144,000 to a large business without the battery installation. Though you may have to increase the number of solar panels, given that solar power is only active during the day with direct sunlight, so it may only be 25% efficient throughout the course of the day. Meaning that if you are going to generate all the power needs you want for your business, you would need to invest in more panels and batteries to store that capacity. Active solar panels have no moving parts, so there is very low maintenance other than battery maintenance if you choose to go that way. You also need inverters to change the power from DC to AC, and solar panels are very fragile. Active solar power is currently available for a Focus on Energy business tax break of 30% off the initial price. The final alternative energy solution for businesses I will be discussing is geothermal heating and cooling. You basically run a loop underground below 6 feet where the constant temperature of the earth is between 50 and 60 degrees. You run either water or preferred antifreeze solution through this loop that then goes to your water heater or heat exchanger, where, like the solar hot water heaters, is used to preheat the water before it enters the water heater. Since the temperature below the earth is constant, you can start off with 50-degree or 60-degree water instead of the normal intake water temperature, which would be around 35 degrees during the winter, and during the summer you actually add heat to the water to take that heat away from your system, in fact, in turn cooling your system. That can add as much as 80% savings over other heating sources. These systems operate very quietly. Maintenance is very cheap since all you really need to look after is the heat pump, heat exchanger, and air filters, though the installation cost is high since you have to dig up a portion of the yard to install the loops. Geothermal heating and cooling costs around $2,500 per ton of capacity, or roughly $7,500 for a 3-ton unit, which will heat and cool a 2,000 foot square building. The system is also eligible for a 30% tax credit from Focus on Energy for commercial buildings. All of these systems can further be used for LEED certification, whereas up to 19 points can be gained, and once 40 or more points have been gained, you are eligible to get a LEED system certification, which currently some states and cities have been granting tax breaks, and as soon as more companies and businesses switch to the LEED certification, federal government tax breaks should follow. All of the methods described are excellent alternatives to standard energy and heating sources that businesses should be able to take advantage of to not only have more environmentally friendly buildings, but to also save money. The system chosen will have to depend not only on the initial cost of the operation, payback of the system, the government tax breaks, and also the location and business type to determine what would work best for each company. Thank you for your time.